Well, Steve Mignani here, the Steve Mag's YouTube channel, and we're here at Winkle Automotive in wonderful Milford, New Hampshire. And for the 62 Dodge Dart police car that I've got, you've probably have seen the videos. If not, check them out here on the channel. This is a 440 big block Chrysler. We've previously sort of examined how to tell a tall deck from a short deck. In other words, the 440, 413 from the 383, 400, 361 stuff. We need the tall deck because what we're going to do is build a 513 cubic inch stroker max wedge replica for use in that 62 Dodge Dart. Now this engine here apparently is out of a truck or a van or a motorhome. It's got the front sump. That's okay. The blocks are completely interchangeable. They don't care. It is a 1974 casting from a 1975 model year vehicle. It was cast in November of 74. Now some talk about these things being of thinner wall construction. In fact, 1978, the final year for the 440, a lot of people say, oh, you can only bore those things 20 thousandths over. You can't go 50 or 60 or any of that stuff. I don't know. I've never seen that myself. In fact, in California, Joe Gill at Superior Automotive, maybe 10, 15 years ago at Hot Rod, I was working there, we actually sonic checked a bunch of 440 blocks and some 413s, and we found that they were very, very beefy. Even 1977 and 78 castings weren't that thin. So I don't know where that's from, but this being a 75 casting, I'm pretty sure we can go 30 over on this thing to put our 440 source 513 stroker assembly in it. But there's some things we won't be using. It's nice to see the Edelbrock Performer RPM dual plane aluminum intake. It's kind of nice, you know, but we're putting on a reproduction A&A transmissions max wedge cross ram, so that's going to go. The iron heads that we have here, we'll talk about that and more. I'm going to pull a valve cover in a minute, but these are cast iron. They're good. Mopar big block heads are pretty decent. As is, they have, what, a 208 intake and a 174, I think, exhaust. They're not bad. We're talking 68 up with the big valve stuff. They're not a bad head at all, but we'll be using some 440 source aluminum replicas, which look the part, but are lighter and are just as good, but they're new. That's the beauty. This also has the electronic distributor right here. No points in this thing. After 1970, Chrysler had all electronic. There's no points. It's breakerless, cool stuff. We'll probably use that again if it's serviceable. Why not? The water pump on this one is not usable for our car because this has the truck specific extension right here. Car ones go straight out. This is something we'll either leave behind or return, you know, waste not, want not. So let's take a quick peek. Before I move on, this thing right here, this is a 4-barrel intake manifold, also from a Mopar V8, but this is from a small block, a 340 or a 360. We know that because it covers the entire valley of the engine from cylinder head to cylinder head. You can see this, it covers the valley. By contrast, all big blocks have an open chamber right here underneath the intake manifold. You can see here that there's actually a tin cover beneath the manifold. So 440s, 413s, 426 wedges, they all have an open space here. So quickly you can tell a big block from a small block intake manifold. You know, frankly, if it's a big rectangle that covers the valley, it's small block stuff you can't begin to use on your big block. Okay, moment of truth. Let's pull off these chrome generic valve covers and see. Okay, well, okay, I got a 3/8 on here. That's 7/16. Don't have a 7/16 socket. That's all right. I can show you what's under here by going to this engine over here. Okay, that right there, what we're seeing, these are Chrysler's rocker shaft style valve train. There's pedestals that are integrally cast on 64 up cylinder heads. They take this rocker shaft and these stamped steel rocker arms right here actuate the exhaust and intake valves. These are single spring. The only double springs you'll find are going to be on factory max wedges. The Magnums had a single spring with a damper inside, but this one here is a great example. That valve train right there, we'll be using that same stuff over again. Adjustable rocker arms did come on max wedges and certain Chrysler letter cars of like 1960 or 59 through 63, the max wedge and Chrysler letter cars, but we're just going to stick with the stock stuff right here. So with that said, that's what we have here. This 440 is going to be transformed. Now, something I want to point out, I like to say fill your library before you fill your garage. And when it comes to shopping for engines, you want to be equipped. These are books. Anybody born, well, anybody in their 40s or 50s will remember these. Galen Govier was kind of the numbers guru for Chrysler. And back in the 80s and 90s, and I think even now, he sells these. These are what they call little white books. And this is casting numbers and part numbers. And what you have in here are the actual casting numbers for various items inside of the engine. So if you cared, these are nothing log manifolds, but you could read this 2899876 casting number and determine what year it came from if you have these books. Now, more modern, Dave Wise from MMC Detroit, smart dude, he releases these things here. These are his field guides, and you take this into the junkyard with you right here, and inside is everything you might want to know about identifying your engine, from codes to date numbers and all of it. Types of valve covers, oil pans, it's all here. So I like to say, fill your library before you fill your garage. And with books like these, take these in the junkyard, you can't go too wrong. And on this one here, we see the side of the block. It says 630, which means it's a 74 upcasting. And of course the dash 440, very important. I've seen 400s, low decks with 400. So if you see 400, you don't want that engine. But again, the lump on the front tells us it's a tall deck, 440. And this is what we're going to be using as we bring the 513 max wedge to reality and power our engine. So in a couple of seconds, we're going to get the cherry picker and drag this thing out of here. And we'll be back with video of that. But in the meantime, if you like what you see here, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel and stick around for more.